Hello again. Hello again. A bit more work on the GT6 restoration dashboard this time. I've started to cut it out, and I wasn't necessarily going to do a video of me doing it because I'm doing it on a milling machine, and if you haven't got one, it might not be the right thing to watch really, because I think it's a lot easier on here. So I think it is doable whether you've got a milling machine or not. If you have, it's easier. And what we've got up to now is I've done one side. I can show you where we're up to with that. Let's say there, you see, I've cut that out on that section, which is one side, and now we're undertaking the other side to do. These are the templates I made, and the reason I made templates and not just cut it out was, you know, some of these units here, they're pretty tatty. When you get something like this where somebody had tried to put a switch in, anyway, it's completely knackered. You know, when you're trying to copy around all these are all factory things that were roughly quickly made. Well, they did the job, but they were not, you know, the best effort, if you like. So what I did was I made templates from these onto MDF, 6mm, 9mm MDF. I used 6, but 6 or 9 is plenty. And then, you know, made an effort to copy these. If there's any imperfections in them, you know, when you're cutting it out with, most of the time you're using this, aren't you? Using a router cutter with a bearing in it. There's your bearing, and that copies. That's a copy. As you push that around, obviously you must have seen these. That copies whatever you're pushing the bearing on. And in this case, you know, you're just using it to cut all around the outside. But if you saw anything that was an imperfection, then you could, you know, pull away from it, cut around it, and then sand it. You know what I mean? Take all the imperfections out of these little things as you can. So your template is that shape. It's just in slightly better condition, really, is what we're trying to say. So that's the main reason I didn't copy straight from these. You know, MDF is cheap, it's easy to work with, and I use these, you know, just to make an effort on it. So what we did with them then, after we got this done, I'm putting this in down there. I showed you how I made this piece up there, and you can see that a lot clearer now. And you see where I've got 5mm of excuse me, walnut plank, which we cut up and planed up, and it's glued to another 6mm piece of pitch pine, which is a nice strong material. This stuff on its own isn't, this, you know, the walnut, that thin on its own just isn't strong enough, it'd fall apart. So now we glued it onto there, and then I've just used my templates to go around there. And if people say, are you trying to make this all in one? And the answer to that is no, we're not making it all in one. What we're doing is cutting that side out, this side out, to a finish. Once we've done that, we can then use, if we need to, I'm not saying we will, if we need to, we can use either side of this to clamp down the centre whilst we're cutting out the centre, if you know what I'm saying. So it's, yeah, I could cut them off now and that's it, but I might think, you know, I could have done with that material there to clamp onto and hold everything stiff. And that's fundamentally why I'm doing it this way. You know, I'll cut it all out first, and then I'll cut it into the 3 sections of a GT6 or a Spitfire dashboard. They're all the same. And, you know, that's, in case anybody's wondering, we're not trying to make it all in one. You could do, it'd just make putting it all together quite a bit of a pain, really, I suppose. But and you also need it to come apart for general maintenance and everything like. So you've got to cut them. Don't get tempted to do it. If you've ever got to pull the centrepiece off to do any wiring checks or switches, you'd have a nightmare. You'd have to take the whole thing out and it'd be a nuisance. So, you know, do it as 3. So I don't know if anybody's ever used this kind of stuff before, as in a router cutter, etc. It's not hard work to use. line my thing back up there nicely. Clamp down. Make sure you nicely clamp down because it will move slightly. And I'll show you how I go about doing it. It's not everybody's way, I'm sure. Now I'll set my depth on my bearing cutter, and you can see the bearing here, a little silver bit that spins around, and that's a guide for that. Obviously the bearing sits on the template, the cutter cuts away at the walnut. Now this one, with it being so thin, makes it sort of, you know, quite difficult to hold your router steady, but you must hold it steady come what may. So be nice and careful. You see, because it's clamped, you can't do all of this. I just think it's better to do it this way than you know, trying to get some flimsy clamps somewhere else. I'll do so much, move the clamps, finished off. That's kind of how I go about doing it. So I'm going to get in the corner here nice and steady, get as much of it as I can, and here we go. Pull it out. Now you can kind of see where it's left that groove down there. Now what we'll use there is, when we've gone all the way around this, we'll take the template away and we'll cut this groove out here with the jigsaw, and then just use the top of the walnut to cut it straight out again. So what I've got to do now is move, I'll tell you what, no, we'll just do this other side. Which is really, because it's got to go, I've got to go backwards. Not the back side of it cut. And the reason I went that way, I sort of made a lousy explanation, is you've got to go in the direction of the cutter. If you go against the direction of the cutter, it'll just go like that all over the place. So, you know, I'm pulling it towards me, I'm pushing it away there, pulling it towards me there. I will say, if you've never ever used a router before, maybe get somebody to do it for you, because you don't, you know, you've got to get a feel for a router. It's got to be, how can I say, sat down nice and square. It's very much a left-handed thing, where you hold it down nicely with the left hand. The right hand is, if you put too much effort with the right hand, you tend to tilt a router just like that, and you don't want that to happen. So you're using your right hand as a guide, your left hand to keep it in contact with the job and hold it down nice and square. So as you can see, we've got a couple of sides done. So now we've got to move my clamps. Moving the clamps one at a time. Till we can get enough space on there to hold on. I'll need to move that more because we're getting slightly in the way of things there. We'll bring it around here. That's it, we'll bring it to there. And I'm moving these, I will be moving these clamps several times. It doesn't matter, because we're not in a rush, are we, to get to get to the fair on time, are we really? So holding it down again, holding it there. I always say when you put a clamp on and you think you've tightened it and you're not sure whether you have, go and try again. And again to do the second part. I'll come back this way first, I think, come towards me. So, as you can see, we've gone all the way around there. So we can move that one now. Put him on there. I've got little bits of MDF under there because I don't want to just leave these clamp marks on the back side of it. Not that I think it'll move. I just want to do it that way. So we go back in again, just to finish off around that edge. And there you go, classic example of what can go wrong with a router. I should have had it in this gap hole here, and I put it further back. So there you go, big message. This is only a little router, but it's got a kick in it. And that did just touch my little template there. And there you go. Big lesson. Big lesson there. Somebody who's used a lot of routers in the past, like myself. I'll come back up again and I'll look at you on the face so we can explain my little cock up. You know, I've used routers quite a lot over the years, and that was stupid. I don't know, probably because I'm trying to film. This is what I hope everybody sometimes understands. When you're trying to do these videos, you're concentrating 90% on what you're doing, and the 10% of the video you're putting in throws in these little problems. So if you see me or anyone else making silly mistakes sometimes, it's probably because you're trying to make a video to share your experiences with everybody else. But that was a great, I'm going to leave that, I'll leave that in the video to see what, well, as you can see, I left it in the video to see what can happen. So, you know, what should have done there was start it in a recess. You know, grind out a recess first, start it in there, and then slowly bring the cutters to the job. I've just started in a place where I just thought it was going to be easier. There you go, just see the problem. So, you know, there we go. We've just done one little thing there. And I'm just wondering to myself, what size what I'm doing. I'm not working on the cuff here. I've got some hole cutters here. I cut the other side of these. And this is for the air vent section, this was. And how big's that? Let's pause the video a minute just while I have a little think about that little problem there. Just adjusting me setup there. Excuse me. Just make a quick explanation of why I'm using my hole cutter for this for this air vent cut. There's two of them, the one on the right hand side, one on the left hand side, is the fact that the holes that they cut at the factory are quite big and it's all very, very sloppy, and I just want to tighten them up a little bit, so I'm using a 62mm hole saw, which just a nice makes slightly smaller hole, and it's just a better fit all round, if you know what I mean. I'm going to have to, I will copy the cutout with my bearings, which I'll explain later, but I just want to use this on here. You don't have to, because it works using, you know, the bearing cutter for the you know, just for copying all the holes out. It does work. I'm just, you know, because I'm just that way, I want to tighten it up a little bit and make a hole that fits. I'm going to cut all the way through this. Normally I'll cut over the hole saw. I normally cut so far down till the centre drills come through, turn everything over and cut through the other side, makes a nice clean line. But because of the setup scenario here, I'm just going to go straight through, nice and gentle. It's a new cutter, very sharp cutter, so it won't rip out much on the other side. It'll basically just a little bit of clean up, and you know, I think it'll be fine. In fact, I know it'll be fine because I've already done it. So hit this one again. There we go. That's that bit done. So I'll drop that down a little bit. Still struggling with this damned arm. Come out. Take my hole cutter out again. And right. We can move the whole thing back over here. Here now that'll come out a little bit on the pan out. You can see now we've got that hole cut there. I'll take the template off now. I'll finish what I'm doing there. And you can now see kind of what we've got there. And it becomes quite easy to see. I'll get as close as I can. I've cut so far down there. Now I will use this shoulder here to use the guide bearing for the router. Just run the guide bearing down there. I'm using this rather than the template back on again to go through it, which is pretty straightforward. Yep. We'll go on there, I think. I'll reach out and go. Clamp it up each side again. I am going to cut it out with the got it there, yep. Right, let's come back over there. Trusty jigsaw. I'm going to cut out the excess.